Sorry about that, folks. The thing automatically went off. I don't know why it was doing that. Either it got overheated. I told you that was going to happen. But, again, let's redo this one more time. As I was trying to say in the original video, after watching what RowdyC had to say about Shnookums and meat in his third edition of Deconstructing the Disney Afternoon, if you will, and pretty much calling it out as the worst show they've done up until recently, which I don't even know if that show's still on the air. Shnookums and meat here on the cartoon Flashback HD. Shnookums and meat were pretty much, I think anybody would look at it. Even I saw it this way when I first even laid eyes on it. It's nothing more than a Ren and Stimpy ripoff. Now, like some people, I did try to give it a chance. I tried to give it a chance, but honestly, I could not really get into it. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't try with Shnookums and meat, but you can blatantly see there was so many similarities to Ren and Stimpy, from the title cards to some of the scenarios, that you just couldn't get into it. And I think what it was is because of the fact that people like me and others out there had grown up and become accustomed to Disney being Disney, even with its different attempts to go outside its box, some being successful, and in this case not being successful. We knew what to expect. We knew what to expect, but looking at Shnookums and meat, this was not something we would expect. Looking at Shnookums and meat, this was basically a ripoff of Ren and Stimpy with a Disney twist. Disney, even though the animation was cleaner and more neat than Ren and Stimpy's, it still was blatant that they were ripping it off. I mean, everybody probably wonders why Shnookums and meat didn't last so long on syndication. It's because of the fact that they were ripping off Ren and Stimpy. And Ren and Stimpy was as controversial as they got. Even got canceled for a while and then brought back as an adult cartoon. That's how controversial they were. And when people saw Disney, or whoever greenlighted this at Disney, decide, hey, go ahead and do it, they saw basically Disney trying to, with their own twist, or someone at Disney with the Disney twist, if you will, trying to bring that controversial-like style that Ren and Stimpy did into a syndicated, free, on-air television audience. And it backfired because a lot of people pretty much saw it was nothing more than Ren and Stimpy, but a Disney version of it, and they didn't like it, which is why Shnookums and meat did not last. They did not last due to the fact that people just could not bring themselves to try to look at it differently because of the fact that they didn't see a different take on it. They saw Ren and Stimpy with Disney written all over it. In fact, Rowdy said it best in his review. This was the most unproduced Disney show ever. And some of the shows they've come out recently, like Gravity Falls, Star vs. the Forces of Evil, some of those are looked at as sort of being un-Disney, but you could see Disney in them. You can still see a bit of that Disney magic, which is why they're very popular. I mean, why do you think freaking Kim Possible lasted as long as she did? Because that was exactly what fans expected from Disney and the Disney Afternoon. Why do you think Hercules, 101 Dalmatians, why do you think they lasted so long? Or why do you think they have a popularity? Because that's what people expect from Disney. Why do you think Recess lasted as long as it did? Pepper Ann has a following. Doug, Disney's brand spanking new Doug, has a popularity. Because even though they might be produced and animated by different companies, guess what? Guess what? They still have that Disney feel to them and people see it. People see that Disney feel to them and they can embrace that. They can enjoy it. This, however, not the case. This was not the case. I mean, when you had Timon and Pumbaa spawn off into their own show, even people accepted that more than Ren and Stimpy. You know why? Because Timon and Pumbaa, at least, even though they did shorts and everything and spun off with things like the hyenas, and Zazu shorts and Rafiki shorts and all that, at least they stayed true to what made The Lion King good. At least they stayed true to what made Timon and Pumbaa funny. That's why they were a success. The truth of the matter is this. When Disney, whoever greenlighted this, said go ahead and do it, had no idea that basically they probably had no idea they were going to get backlash. And this was at a time when a lot of shows, and everything, despite how controversial they might be in nature, a lot of the animated shows, especially the daytime after school ones, started to follow that FCC-like regulation that the Saturday morning shows were doing. Why? Because you had to have at least a few hours of education in there, or at least some kind of education thrown into the show, so at least kids can learn. And whether we liked it or not, that was the regulation. Heck, even Animaniacs, which I think Disney was hoping this would tune fans away from it, but backfired, as Rowdy put it in his review. Even Animaniacs, despite how controversial they were at times, even they had educational values. They had freaking Yakko doing songs about the states, the planets, the presidents, you name it. At least, despite their controversial nature at times, they had enough. They had something there to make things more educational. True. They made fun of it. They parodied how the fact that television was going in that direction in one episode featuring Slappy Squirrel. But the point of the matter is, they still had that education. They still had that educational input with what Yakko was doing. They still had that educational input. Now, with that said, if someone at Disney thought Shnookums and Meat, in their Ren and Stimpy-like style with that Disney twist, was going to tune people away from Animaniacs, like Rowdy said, it didn't work, it backfired. And if that's not even worse, how about the fact that the other two cartoons basically were parodying, if not ripping off other stuff? Pith Possum, Super Possum of Tomorrow, was a blatant spoof, of course, of Batman, but it was also a blatant spoof of Darkwing freaking Duck. Let me explain. See, Darkwing Duck was indeed a bit of a parody spoof of superheroes, but it did take itself more legitimately and serious. Darkwing Duck essentially was a blending of Darkman, Shadowman, and Batman. And that's what made it good. It was a parody of those two, but it still took itself more serious and more legit enough that if you didn't see Darkwing Duck as a parody, you saw him as a legit superhero from a Disney standpoint. But when it came to this parody, Pith Possum, this was as ridiculous as you would get. Ridiculous. I mean, basically, long story short, here's a possum that gets mutated or whatever into a humanoid possum, becomes a freaking copy boy at a newspaper place, has a crush on a human girl named Doris Deer, who, oh, by the way, her name is not D-E-A-R, it's D-E-R. You think they would make into a freaking humanoid deer, anthropomorphic deer, which would make more sense. But I guess they only had done that with fawn deer and bonkers, but still it would have made more sense to at least give her a tail and maybe some ears to kind of give that deer-like appearance. You bring her in as the freaking crush of the alter ego of Pith Possum, as well as the love interest of Pith Possum. And yet, she's portrayed as someone that'd rather be around Pith Possum, even though she has no idea he and this copy boy that she works with called Peter Possum are the same person. She's basically treated like night and day. I mean, even Lois Lane pretty much figured out that Superman and Clark were the same thing. But guess what? She never mistreated both. True, she would sarcastically joke around and everything with Clark and everything, kind of get on him for disappearing and all that, until she finally put two and two together. But she never mistreated him. She never disrespected him. She never looked down upon him. I mean, heck, even when Underdog came out, you had Sweet Polly Purebred treat Shoeshine Boy just as nice and equally as she would treat Underdog, Shoeshine's freaking alter ego. His superhero alter ego. But here, they basically make this girl as night and day. In other words, the day being, it being like night and day. In other words, she's nice to Peter Possum, the Copy Boy's superhero alter ego, fawning all over him, Google-eyeing all over him. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised if there was an episode where she melted into a puddle just upon seeing him. And yet, she shows disdain and disgust for his alter ego. And why? Because she's a freaking parody of what, I guess, whoever greenlit this should see people like Lois Lane as. Someone that should be treating the nerdy human alter ego of the superhero as dirt, but treat the superhero that he really is as gold. That's not how you do it! No! Parody, spoofing or not, you make the girl treat both sides equal. You look at a girl like her and you think she'd be more sympathetic to him, to the Copy Boy version, to the Peter Possum version of Pith Possum. You think she'd be like that. But no, they don't do that. They don't do that. They attempted it at one time, but instead of finally saying, okay, we're going to let these two have a happy life together, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, they spit it out and they beep it out and throw it right in your face. And say, no, we're not going to let that happen. And we're just going to end it with Peter Possum lying on the ground crying. It's like, seriously. You could have done so much more. You could, okay, let me get into this a second. The third one. Hello? Yeah. All right. Yeah, 5:30. I'm not ready yet. I haven't gotten in the shower or anything, so. Yeah. Sorry about that. That was my job calling. Literally, I gotta get ready in a bit. But anyway, like I was saying, I'm sorry for the interruption. Let me put it to you like this Okay, let me put it to you like this. The third one, even Rowdy gave it credit for being having more of a continuity, more of a, sort of a potential to it. But even it messed up a little bit. Even it had its problems. I mean, the freaking Tex Tin Star was a freaking parody of Clint Eastwood from the old Western stuff like Good and the Bad and the Ugly and all that. But, here's the deal. Here's the deal. Okay? Tex Tin Star had more potential in it than I think any of those three. Heck, even Pith Possum, I'll give this credit. I'll go as far as to say this. Pith Possum had potential. It did. They could have easily spun that off into its own 3-episode kind of deal, or three cartoon-like episode kind of deal, and yet they didn't. They had potential there. Fan fiction was probably taking this piss possum idea and ran with it in their own stories. Probably in freaking fan fiction, you have Peter Possum finally reveal, oh, by the way, I got a secret for you. Boom, I'm Pith Possum in front of this Doris deer. It's like, and that was another thing that threw people off about Pith Possum. Why is a freaking human girl working in a world full of anthropomorphic animals? Doesn't make sense. Maybe you would, like I said, giving her a tail and some ears, it'd be passable, but no, they didn't do that. They didn't do that, and that's what made this overall Shnookums and Meat funny cartoon show go down the toilet. Because it was bad. It was bad, bad, bad. It was at what it was ripping off, and what it was parodying, and what it was spoofing. It was bad. Yeah, it had potential, maybe one of the two cartoons that followed suit of Shnookums and Meat, but still, it was bad. It was bad. This was a show that I thank God above is not going to get a freaking DVD release. If it does, it should be boycotted. And I'm pretty sure the reason it didn't last so long on syndication wasn't because of the fact that people saw through the fact that it was just a Shnookums, that it was nothing more than a Ren and Stimpy ripoff with a Disney twist. It was the same Ren and Stimpy-like humor that made that show controversial in the first place, but it was with a Disney twist and being brought to syndication, and Disney and whoever else was trying to hide it with the... It's no wonder people saw through it and said, no, this is not Disney. This is nothing more than Ren and Stimpy with a Disney twist. Get it off the air. And I wouldn't be surprised if the people behind Ren and Stimpy threatened to sue Disney for copyright infringement. I wouldn't be surprised by that. I wouldn't be surprised by that whatsoever. And you know why? Because I don't think, not that I don't think, it's that I know without a shadow of a doubt that this show definitely was the downfall, was the ending of the Disney afternoon. People say Quack Pack was it? No. People say Mighty Ducks might have been it. Mighty Ducks was basically on the same level of Goggles almost. No. It was this. And yes, they tried to use Mighty Ducks and Quack Pack to try to recover. Didn't work. It was too far gone. This killed it. They tried to use additional new seasons of Goggles. Yeah, it helped a little bit, but not much. Because this killed it. You know how bad this was? When they took Shnookums and Meat off, they brought back in Darkwing Duck to replace it. Or to balance it out, or something. Whoever came up with Shnookums and Meat should needs to look back at what they did and say to themselves, you know what, maybe I shouldn't have come up with this concept because it was the stupidest concept you could come up with for a Disney afternoon show. If you were going to do a Ren and Stimpy ripoff, oh, guess what? There's other people out there you could have sold the rights to. Hey, Nickelodeon, you want to do a Ren and Stimpy spin-off? Sure. What do you want? What is it called? It's called Shnookums and Meat. Okay. Would have been easier. I gave the show a chance. I couldn't even finish watching it. This show reeked of awful. It reeked of awfulness. It reeked of stupidity. It reeked of basically anybody that didn't have a brain cell thinking this was going to help make them relevant. It was going to help make the Disney afternoon popular again. No. You know what they should have done? If they were going to spin the show off, they should have spun it off, kept it on CBS, and then you know what? Then they would have seen the reality of their ideas. But you know why? Because they knew exactly what would happen. They knew if they